Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is U.S. News and World correspondent Ken Walsh, and from Sacramento, our political analyst Mark Curtis. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Russ.
Ken, let me begin with you. This has got to be one of the most exciting primaries you've been through.
Yes, well, the Democratic race has turned into just as exciting a race as we thought it might be. I think that the California is a good example where it's up, it's down. The polls are right, the polls are wrong. But basically, when the voters make their decisions, what we end up with is a really head-to-head competition between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama that now goes on to one state after another. No big days like we had in Super Tuesday, except when you get to March 4th, you're going to have Ohio and Texas, and that's what a lot of people are looking ahead to. And so Obama may actually have an edge in money now in the bank, but Hillary Clinton has a terrific organization, so this is going to keep going week after week, primary after primary.
Here's a question for both of you, and I'll start with you, Mark. With all the polls and the exit polls they do, have you gotten any feel of how many voters went into the booth and made up their mind at that point?
It's a little hard to tell right now how many, but you can tell just by looking at the spread a lot, because in the polls going into the California primary, Ross, it showed it a lot closer between Obama and Clinton and a lot closer between McCain and Romney. Obviously, the final result, there was a much wider margin, and that tells you a lot of undecided votes went for those winning candidates.
In talking about the split between Obama and Clinton and then the vote for John McCain, it seems American voters are saying, Ken, that they're demanding a new way to do business.
Right. Well, at least on the Democratic side, that's true. And I think this is an issue that would come back and haunt McCain later if he is the nominee, because he is sort of a guy from the past, more or less, in a lot of what how he's approaching the issues. But I think Obama and Hillary, if you look at Hillary's rhetoric in the last day, she's been matching some of Obama's rhetoric, talking about conciliation and doing things differently. So this Obama movement, and I think you can see it as a movement for change in Washington, is really catching on, and Hillary Clinton is now adopting more of the themes and rhetoric, and I think that's going to continue.
Ross, I would disagree with Ken just a little bit on this point, and that is the fact that McCain has always been such a maverick in his party. He's always bucked the system in the Republican Party, and so while he obviously can't run as a Washington outsider, he can at least run as a guy who stuck his thumb in the eye of the system, and that endears him to a lot of people.
Ken, why do you think the hardcore conservatives are not going for John McCain? I mean, he's always been tough on the issues they cared about, particularly recently defending the president on the surge in Iraq.
Right. Well, I think there's a number of reasons, that we've all talked about a number of times, that he didn't vote for the Bush tax cuts in the first term, in Bush's first term. On immigration, he is in favor of this path to citizenship that President Bush suggested, and that did not get anywhere. A lot of conservatives oppose that. By the way, that's another issue that I think where we agree here, that on immigration, McCain could have some appeal, particularly to the Hispanics that were so important in California, because he was in favor of this path to citizenship. So that's another theme there. But basically, with the conservatives, he has just not been as reliable or as aggressive on their issues as a lot of conservatives wanted. And they have long memories, and they don't forget this sort of thing.
And maybe, Mark, it's the voters saying, too, compromise. Those are the marching orders. We haven't had compromise in our government recently.
Well, that's been the big appeal in California with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's one of the things that people really like about him, is he's willing to reach across the aisle, work with the Democratic leadership on a whole host of issues. And of course, John McCain has had that reputation in Washington, D.C., working with, for example, Ted Kennedy, a liberal senator from Massachusetts, on immigration reform and on education and on other issues. And so people are saying, get something done. And maybe that's why McCain has such appeal, because he is willing to extend his hand across the aisle.
Mark Curtis, Ken Walsh, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Time now is 7:52. Let's go back to the desk.